Hey guys, Santoli here with another Banlist discussion video. So we should be getting a list soonish, whether it's the following week, which I would imagine means it's in place for YCS Ohio or Columbus, or if we get one at Columbus or slightly after that for Nats format, we will be getting one at least somewhat soon, hopefully dealing with all the Justice Hunter decks that have been running around. And so here's my take on what I think needs to get hit for the upcoming formats. And I think that the game is in an okay spot overall. I think the decks are somewhat interesting. It's not amazing. You still do have a large amount of non-games. There's a lot of decks right now that um, I don't even know if the playstyle is awful, but it just feels like it's gone old. And I think that the new coming decks, especially in the next set for Blitz or the Nats set, are a little bit lower power level. So we do need a list to actually make them top tier, which means that some of the old decks need to move out of the way. So we're just going to go through deck by deck on what I think needs to get hit. First off, talking about VS and the K9 engine. I said this last video, there's going to be some repetition from last video for things that did not get hit, but there's also new ideas. I think the VS cards are fine. I don't think we need to bring Sue up. I think this card is completely insane. I think the main thing with this card is that it, as a turn 0 play, is just disgusting. The big issue is that you just don't lose any advantage. You know, you summon Sue, you summon from deck, you get a card to hand, and then you reshuffle some hands, you get 2 pops. You still have 5 cards in your hand, or yeah, you still have 5 cards in your hand after resolving this. And so I don't want to just kill the K9 cards and have this card come up. I see people talk about how the issue with VS is just the K9 cards. There's nothing wrong with VS. It's like, no. It completely dominated Euros last year with no K9 cards, just as VS. And so I don't want this card to come up any higher. I think it's fine at 1. It's not bad once you search it. Like, once it's in engine and you have to switch off Raisin or whatever, and then you start looping with Rock, that's fine, because now it's a card that you can, as the opponent, know where it is and attack it and try to keep it off the board out of their hands. And so it's fine. It's just really the turn 0 plays with this card that I am not a fan of, which means I think it just needs to stay at 1. It's too good, especially when paired with a Chummy when you're going second. So it's fine once you get to it, but it's not one of these cards that I think the power level is too low. We can bring it up. It's good where it is. It is rightfully on the list. And so hitting the K9 cards, which is the other issue with the deck, is naturally just get rid of Ripper. I said this last time, I'll say it again. There's no real reason for this card to exist in the current way it is. It's just hand trap installation. I go summon Draco, summon Guy, make Ripper, and now I'm just immune to 1 hand traps. And it just makes it very, very difficult to hand trap the decks. And overall, it's just not enjoyable for that. And I think it's unfortunate because this card isn't super far off from being reasonable. Like, just imagine it said your opponent has to have a card on their field for you to negate, and then all of a sudden it'd be completely fine because it's not this call by the grave going first. But that's not how it is. It was designed in a way where it's just super, super good going first, which means that, like I said last time, we just get rid of it. I think these cards are super toxic, and it should not be here. And yes, it's really killing the K9 archetype, but I don't see any other way. If Konami's like, I don't really want to ban this card, they want to keep it around, the other thing they can hit is Case, because this makes the hybrids a lot worse. It means you can't bridge because you're losing an extra monster off of your combos, because Lantern now can only search the quick play or the regular, or the quick play, whichever it is. So that is an argument to get rid of it if Konami decides not to get rid of Ripper, but I think it should just be Ripper being the one that goes. And I don't really see any other hits. I don't think it's needed to use an argument to move Jokel back up, but I think this card's still very good going first. Maybe for subsequent lists we can move this up, but for the first one, I'm fine just killing Ripper and seeing where the rest of the decks lie. Moving on to the Yummy archetype. So the big one people talk about is hitting Cupsy. And the reason they talk about this is because it's used for all the toxic bridges. And the problem with that logic is that wasn't completely true. So let's first talk about the fact that not all Yummy hybrids are toxic. Like, if my opponent is activating Engage, going drones, and just making Cupsy away like that, there's nothing toxic about that. Like how Yummy was played initially, there's nothing wrong with that. If my opponent is going through Soulful Core cards to get the Cupsy away, again, there's not anything inherently problematic about that. These are supplementary engines that aren't really raising the ceiling super large amount. It's just extra ways of consistency. I don't have an issue with that. Them going through Jester Confit or something, these cards are fine. When you look at a lot of the more toxic hybrids, such as the Mitsu one or the Radiant Tri-Brigade one. Not that one was super toxic, but it really did have an insane board. None of these hybrids really relied on Kapsui for the bridge. Like, the Yummy cards relied on Kapsui naturally, because once you get the one Yummy card, you want to get to more of them. But the bridges to Yummy at all were done through different ways. Mitsu was done through Zombie Vampire, and the Radiant Typhoon Tri-Brigade one was done through Shuriken. And so this is an example of a card that's kind of taking a bit of blame unfairly, in the sense that it's not responsible for all the bridges. Some of them, yes, but not all of them. And the problem is, if you hit Kapsui, the deck is just completely dead. Like, what is one Cookie doing or one Marshmallow doing? And I don't know if this deck needs to completely die. Power level seems okay-ish. Overall, I don't hate this ban, but I'm just going to suggest a different one because some people like playing Yummy, and it's not a deck I particularly hate, and that is hitting Lollipop instead, along with drones. And so what this does is it means it prevents all of the just two. I'm going to put two bodies on the board. I'm going to make Camellia, send drones, and then I'm going to make Kapsui. That's no longer possible. And hitting Lollipop away is a way of hitting the Yummy engine, but you can still just do Yummy stuff. Like, the big reward now is less, so the reason to play the hybrids is definitely lower. But if you're still playing a Yummy deck, you still have, you know, your normal arsenal things. You can still search and play this efficient grind game. So this is just a different suggestion. I'm not particularly against Kapsui, but again, it's just kind of what Konami wants to do. Whether they want to completely kill the deck, then you just hit Kapsui and all Yummy versions are unplayable. Or if you just want to kill a lot of the hybrids by lowering the appeal of the Yummy cards in these hybrid versions, because if the engine's just worse, there's less reason to play hybrid, then you can go along with this hit. So I think both of these are somewhat reasonable, and you know, I'm kind of fine with either of them. Next up, we have Draco Tale, and this is a deck that I think I'm really upset with the course that this deck has gone on, because it used to be this very holy deck. I remember playing it back when Justice Hunters first came out. I remember my first list had Fenrir's in the main because I was just trying to figure out whatever worked. But as the deck came along, it got hit on the Draco cards with the healthy part, and now it's just kind of fusion pile. And I don't think it's still super toxic. Like, I don't think playing Fallen White in the deck means it's just some disgusting combo swap. It still kind of has that appeal of mid-range style. It is a bit more over the top now, but it doesn't feel super toxic. But I think it's still just less healthy than it was initially. And before, my suggestion was just hit Flame, but I don't think that's enough now, considering there's other engines. I think you just have to hit the Draco cards. And while this engine here is healthy overall, it's not particularly toxic. It is just a massive gatekeeper. Like, trying to play some rogue deck into a deck that's just going to activate Rahu or Ketu, you just explode immediately. So, I'm not particularly a fan of that. It has time in the sun. Suggestions for hits are limit Femina and then Rahu to 2. I think you can put Rahu to 1, but I think if you hit Rahu to 1, the deck is just completely dead unplayable. I think it's already kind of in that position if you do these hits. But, you know, lowering the consistency down, lowering access from the deck for Draco Tale cards, and then Femina. You know, it's not the most broken turn 0 play. It's not Sue. I think Sue is a lot more disgusting, but again, it's just taking names out of rotation and making it worse. And again, it's kind of unfortunate this is the direction the Draco Tale has gone, but we've kind of already hit the consistency of it. I don't think we can really hit the power level considering how much other stuff it's already gotten. The other card that I think is reasonable to hit is Brand Infusion. This is another one of those things where I'm not particularly sold on it, but I think this card just is too much. It's just too much in the Draco Tale deck. It doesn't even actually lessen the branded deck. It's not that big a deal. But there is an argument to hit that. I'm fine if you're doing these hits. I do think that they are enough for Draco Tale to really put them down, because you really just need to draw Draco Tale cards in the Draco Tale deck. And, you know, when you're losing 3 extra stars, it makes a massive difference. I think this deck will fall out of favor massively. And while I have spent a large amount of time playing it, it's definitely time to go. Other things to talk about, we can talk about, I mean, those are all 3 Justice Hunt decks. Other problematic decks or decks that are really strong out there. We talk about Mitsu. So the one thing I will say is this deck is kind of hard to hit because we just got the Structure deck, which I think is probably one of the best products ever, where you can get Striker and Mitsu and X Sabers, because you, I guess, are building Edison deck at the same time. It's not playable in current. But you look at these and it's, like I said last time, it's not that this deck is super toxic. And the thing is, most of the decks right now playing Mitsu are pure. Like the one that won YCS Vegas was a pure deck. There are some decks that play as Amina, which I will talk about shortly. But when I look at this deck, it's not like I need to completely kill it. And if you hit something like Prayers down to 1 or Prayers to 2 even, I think you're just ruining consistency. I don't like these types of hits because it's just, am I going to open playable and make my opponent explode? Or am I going to brick or pass to a hand trap and it's going to be miserable for me? I want to hit the power level. I want to make the deck more fair to play against. And what I said last time, I still stand by, which is you just get rid of Purification. It's super off theme with the deck. It doesn't need an Omni. It's also just insane to follow up. And again, you can just easily replace Purification with Monogatama in most of the pure Mitsu lists. It is a hit by all means, but it's not particularly, you feel like you just lose every game now. It's not this feeling where the deck is now awful to play. It's just you're lowering the power level. I think it's a healthy hit because if you play Mitsu, you can still play it. It's good for all people who want the structure decks. But at the same time, it's just removing a toxic card, and the deck just doesn't need Omni Negates in it. It's perfectly fine doing what just following the normal game plan of summon Murakumo on the board, and then play for follow-up with Futsu. I think that this is just super off theme, and it giving more follow-up as well is just super toxic. Too good of a card. I'm down to get rid of it. And the other thing for the bridge is a card that's not really been seeing much play, but I think it's just one of those cards where at some point we can clean it up, which is Reproductive Source. This is actually a bridge for Fiendsmith. It's also a bridge in the Mitsu deck for the Dark Magician cards and the Azumi cards, because what you do is you make one of your Mitsu cards a spellcaster. You then make the Dark Magician fusion, which then searches souls, Magician souls, and Magician souls then goes and dumps Black Witch, and you can then go and we'll draw some cards if you want to draw some cards off souls, and then you can make Celine to revive the Black Witch. So it does get you an Omni, and this is number one card on my hate list that needs to go. But like I said last time when I was complaining about Zombie Vampire being the bridge, this is one of those cards where when it pops up, it's usually for no good. So I'm down to get rid of it, but lower on my list of things to get rid of. Moving on to some other decks to talk about. Malice. Let's just say I've said last time that I don't want these weak hits, because what's going to happen is they're going to do a hit, everyone's going to go, oh, this deck is dead, and then it's just not dead. And that's exactly what happened. The deck got hit, and it was still somehow the top 3 deck at some events. And I'm just sick of it. The playstyle is just super toxic. It's super bad going second unless you just hand trap your opponent to death. It's super ignorant going first, but it's also just bricky. The playstyle is just so unenjoyable. And again, I don't want to play these games of anymore of, we're going to hit Underground to 1, or we're going to do something else, we're going to ban thing. No, like just get rid of it. Kill the deck. Just ban Dormouse. I'm almost just want to do this and just put everything on this list. Like, there should not be a mouse card that's playable in the game afterwards. But really, like, just get rid of Dormouse, kill the 1 card combos. Yes, it kills the deck, but I just think that deck has gone away so many times with light hits when there's no reason to. Like, when you look at some other decks like Draco Tale or VS, I don't even think that they're ruining the format. It's just like these are kids in school and they, start fights sometimes, and you give them, make them miss recess sometimes. And it's like, okay. And then you have Dormouse, who's been setting fires in the school for the last 5 years. It's like, oh yeah, he can miss recess next Monday. It's like, no, just expel all of them. Please just get rid of them. This deck should not be playable after a ban list. If it is, then I think it's just a failed approach to it. And like I said, when I'm talking about these other hits, is I usually try to have some sense of, okay, these decks should still be somewhat playable after the fact. It's just lower the power level, but Malice, it's just time to go. I still get rid of Dormouse, but they're just all staying there. I can't bring myself to move them off the list. Other cards to talk about, we have Rain Typhoon cards. So the one card that I think is talked about getting hit is Visions. And this is a card that I think power level wise is completely fine. Like, it's a Destiny draw with no upside. Like, what you're discarding is not getting an effect. Like, okay, sometimes you can discard a Varoon or the Phonics and revive it with MST, but then you have to use MST on something. Like, that's not a concern. Like, this card is one of the fairest cards printed. Both the Sky Striker deck and the Rain Typhoon deck, both those decks are also just super fair. I think that if you do want to hit the RT deck, then the correct hit is Visions, because it just removes some of the top end of the deck, the ability to dig into non-engine. But RT is a new deck. It was around the 4th best performing deck, but it's only at a regional level too. It's a bad performance at YCS's. And overall, I think it's just new enough. It's healthy enough. The playstyle is super fun. I don't think anyone is upset when they sit down and their opponent starts summoning Rain Typhoon monsters if there's no fissure behind it. And so just the newness of the deck as well as the health of the deck, I'm just perfectly fine leaving Visions unhit, as well as all the other RT cards. If at the next format it's still just a performing deck at a high level, and at some point you say, okay, we should just take it down a bit, by all means, I'm fine hitting Visions, but this is definitely not a card that I look at, and power level wise, it doesn't warrant the hit, and the decks that play it also power level wise don't really warrant the hit, at least yet. Another card talked about is Fallen, and I just think that this card is fine. Like, this card's strength is in the grind game. And I think anytime a card's where you're getting value over multiple turns, and that's the strength of it, I think those are usually a sign that if these are really good cards, it's a good format. And while this card is very strong, again, I don't think it needs to get hit right now. I think the decks as well are using, like if you hit Draco Tale, this goes down priority, and I think this card in Branded is just fine. Like we're not doing anything degenerate with it, so don't need to hit it. Just because our cards are good and they're played everywhere does not mean that they need to be hit. You're gonna have powerful staples in any format you're in, and the question is, does it lead to interesting gameplay? And this card I think does, and so I'm fine leaving it where it is. Other cards that need to get talked about is Bago. This card is just a floodgate, and it's getting more toxic because it's just you're backing it up with more and more of a board that you can protect it with. Like before, it was kind of Bago, but you didn't have the ability to make many good links. Now it's Bago, IP, into SP, and you have some other stuff depending on the deck. It's not, again, the number one card need to get hit, but it's banned on Master Duel, it's banned in the OCG, and it's just one of these cards where it's essentially a flood, and it's perfectly fine to get rid of it. Liger is another deck that needs to be talked about. Lunalight, I'm fine with this deck playing one of it, but double Liger is usually just game. So again, I'm perfectly fine hitting this down to one. I think people have a really bad reputation of this deck, or perception of this deck. I know Pac made a video where he's talking about how this deck is super skillful, and a lot of people are just like, oh yeah, you summon a towers and it's super skillful. But most decks going first, if you just go uninterrupted, the combo is pretty easy where you just win on it. And the thing with Lunalight is the combos aren't easy, and playing through boards is super difficult. Like I've watched Ryan play this deck a lot. I watched my teammate Luca play this at Vegas, and it's just not a straightforward deck at all. It's very, very complicated. It's one of the hardest decks I've seen. I even put time into it and just eventually gave up on it, which maybe it's just a testament to me not playing combo. But it is a very cool deck to exist. I don't think the existence of Liger is the problem, but 2 Ligers is a lot, and I'm fine removing one down, so you can't just summon one and summon 2 and just win the game through absolutely everything. You have to have diversify your board with a bit, maybe IP, SP, make the rest of the board interactable, so that maybe you then have one Liger out that's able to actually stick. All right, and the last few cards. The one other thing we'll talk about is Kewl Tune. So this is naturally the next best deck, quote unquote, after this list. And this deck is pretty toxic, not because of the playstyle, but just because of the ability to look at hand or look at top of deck. The thing is, I'm playing a lot against this deck on Master Duel, like a very large amount of prep time in, and it's frustrating, but it's also just kind of mid. Like, the deck it's almost like the deck has the toxic traits to make it tier 1, because if it didn't, I really would question if it would just be the best deck at all, because its end board is super susceptible to breakers, and even when they know the breakers are there, sometimes it's still just not enough. They just can't avoid it. That being said, I think that this is a deck people aren't going to like, and I don't think it's toxic enough to justify an early hit, at least for the engine. But one thing we can get rid of, at least because it is a floodgate that's easily accessible, is Rose Whip. The big thing with this deck is that it's weak to breakers. If you have a gas engine heavy hand, you should be able to push through boards, and this kind of invalidates it, especially with Zaleen being a card, being able to just negate the effect of the first spell and then you just have nothing. I'm perfectly happy betting this card, and then we can go from there with Kewl Tune later on to see what happens. Those are all the in-engine stuff I want to talk about. The other 2 cards to talk about, which I'm not going to go super in depth with, are just the Charmies and Ash. I think that both of these cards should eventually make their way on the ban list. I don't have faith that either of them are. Ash might, but Fua and friends probably won't. I think overall, like I said, it's a longer discussion that needs to be had, but I think there's more balancing that needs to be done first to make these bans, applicable. I think that if you just ban the chummies and leave everything else the same, it's not necessarily going to be a good format. The chummies are very good at making bad formats better, but they also have this habit of making good formats worse. So if we can actually get some of the other balance issues fixed up, I think it's a point where I would seriously talk about banning this card. But until then, that needs to be down the road. And Ash is a call by, but again, a call by for going first. But it's a good enough hand trap going second where I don't immediately need to see this go. Joel's Legacy, the other hand trap that people talk about, and I'm just putting the same limited because I don't see this card as a particularly large issue. If you're playing hand trap boards, then it's definitely not even that insane of a card. I don't hate this card going up more, but it's not a card either that screams at me needs to get hit. So, anyways, this is my thoughts on the Banlist and the upcoming format. There's obviously all the other toxic cards that need to get hit. Cross out, call by, shifter, defissure, Gozen can get banned. There's a large list of cards that can just go. But, those are just this kind of standard-esque floodgates that aren't going to leave anytime soon for one reason or another. So I'm not going to talk about them, but, those are standard list of cards that need to go. But in terms of actual meta cards that have been played this year, as we're running up the year, I think this is a good list going into the next format. Let me know if you have any opinions on if I'm wrong, if you think other cards should get hit, and if you're excited for the upcoming format and for the change of pace, and how you actually enjoyed this year, how you enjoyed Justice Hunters. I'll probably make a video at some point talking about a bunch of different metas. That's a side project I've started, but will take a bit more work before I release it. But yeah, I'm just curious to see what people think of things, and as per normal, if you like the video, make sure you like and subscribe, and until next time, guys.